Hi, I'm Liz. Welcome to the channel. I'm a medical technologist and pharmaceutical chemist with over 30 years of experience in the health sector and regulated products industry. I'm here today to talk to you about coffee, specifically the No Coffee Challenge. Coffee is an addiction like no other. It feels more like a love affair than it does substance abuse. It's an addiction I've had for over 30 years. But today I woke up, made my morning cup of joe, and my body was telling me that it's time. Time for a breakup. Time for this to be my last. Can I stop drinking coffee? Is it possible? Forever? Well, hopefully. But how am I going to do that? Why don't we strategize about that today on the Carnivore Science Channel? So why have I abandoned my true love of 30 years, you ask? And that's what it feels like right about now, actually. Well, the short version is that I lost almost 100 pounds doing low carbohydrate diets starting some years back. I lost a bulk of it on keto, and then later I lost the rest on the carnivore diet starting in November of 2022. Not only did I lose all that weight, but I reversed a lot of medical conditions that were making me miserable. I started off with the lion diet, just beef, water, and salt, and my results were so amazing within 2 weeks, reversing all of my medical conditions, or most of them. I actually brought back in the coffee and the tea that I was used to doing before. Not the smartest idea, but it didn't seem to bother me. I had no noticeable or significant issues. I also consumed stevia, which I also incorporated back into my diet. But as I kept researching all of this, and the more I learned, I uncovered some disturbing nutrition facts that started to make me worry. I learned about oxalates and oxalate dumping. I learned that one the hard way. I have dumped oxalates a few times and it is not fun. But more about that later. Oxalate is a derived organic acid and anti-nutrient found in many foods. Anti-nutrients are compounds that reduce the body's ability to absorb nutrients. Not a good thing, actually. But the body also produces oxalates as a byproduct of metabolism. Oxalates also bind to calcium and magnesium, preventing absorption, leading to mineral deficiencies. They're found in a lot of different things, large amounts in spinach, things like that. There's a lot of them in tea, but a lot less in coffee. So according to researchers, oxalates end up building all throughout your system. It builds up over time. It ends up in your tissues and even in your synovial fluid, which causes problems with your joints. According to one of the leading oxalate experts, Sally Norton, and I'll leave a link in the description below, when the body does not receive any more oxalates, as in the effect of going on the carnivore diet, where if you're just doing meat, water, and salt, you're not getting any oxalates. And so all of a sudden, if you've eaten plants all of your life, where you've been consuming a lot of oxalates, or even a moderate amount of oxalates, and then it's cut off and you don't get any when you go on the carnivore diet, the body detects that. Somehow it's detected, and oxalates that are in the tissue start to be dumped. That is what's known as oxalate dumping. So oxalate dumping is really uncomfortable. You can have kind of symptoms like flu symptoms with aches and pains and just feeling like crap. You can have a lot of digestive upset, in particular diarrhea, and it's really crazy diarrhea too. You can even have oxalate crystals in a powdery, like looking like a powder that seeps through your skin when your body starts to purge all of this out of your system. It's really freaky. If you haven't yet, I encourage you to do more research on oxalates, and Sally Norton's site is the pinnacle place to go to learn about oxalates. Oxalates have a lot to do with inflammation and a lot of other health problems. In addition, caffeine causes problems with the absorption of magnesium. So if you're drinking coffee on a regular basis, it can lower the amount of magnesium you have available. Now, one of the things that we know this causes is leg cramping and foot cramping. I have had periodic trouble with that. So again, in addition to not drinking enough water because of the coffee and having the oxalates in the tea, the leg cramping is an issue. I want to see if that gets eradicated after I get rid of coffee and tea later. Anytime I have to leave an addiction or stop a ritual, there are two parts of me that go to war. There's a rational me and logical me. Just FYI, just as a preface for this. Now, irrational me was ecstatic that coffee was relatively low in oxalates until I did more research and found out it contains a long list of serious chemicals that were either naturally occurring or added during processing. And since I do agree with Anthony Chaffee that plants are trying to kill you, I'll leave a link in the description below of his channel as well. I knew what I needed to do, or at least logical me knew that I needed to ditch the coffee. And I also realized that in addition to some laxative effects from the coffee, that it was also interfering with my thirst response. I wasn't drinking anywhere near enough water whenever I would drink more coffee. It hijacks everything, and I end up not drinking water for days, and all I'll do is just drink coffee, and I won't pay attention to the fact that I'm starting to get dehydrated. Even knowing all of this, knowing what to do and actually implementing successful change are two different things. Timing is very important for all of these transformational decisions. Logical me and irrational me have to find common ground in order for any of this to work. I will tell you that the approach I took with the tea, what I did some time ago, knowing that there's a lot of oxalates in tea, I started to dilute the tea to the point to where it's like brown tinted water with a little bit of stevia in it, which is kind of stupid and made me think at some point, what's the point of this? But that's actually a good thing, because when you start asking, what's the point? Why am I doing this? You're close to breaking free from the habit altogether. So that's helped a lot. That has cut drastically the amount of oxalates I'm consuming, and over time I just dilute it more and more and more and more to where I'm just going to be drinking water. And while leaving tea or drinking diluted tea is a big change, because I am Southern and we were raised on tea, the coffee problem is a much bigger issue. It is much harder to walk away from than I expected it to be. And most of the people who drink coffee do it for the caffeine because they need energy. But I'm a fat-adapted carnivore for 2 years, so I don't need any energy. I have plenty of energy. I sleep like a rock. I wake up at 5 a.m. without an alarm clock, and I don't run out of energy during the day. So I don't even need it for the caffeine. Besides, I already cut my coffee consumption down to essentially most days it's just 1 cup a day. So really, that's not a tremendous amount of caffeine, and I dilute my tea, so I'm diluting the caffeine there too. So why is it that I need it so badly, or feel that I need it so badly rather? Personally, I think the answer to that is all about the ritual. The ritual is just such a big part of my morning, it's hard to walk away from. Black coffee to me tastes like crap. I don't like it. But when you use it as a vehicle for butter or MCT oil, and then previously I had used it for heavy cream, but I ended up getting addicted to the heavy cream itself because heavy cream has casomorphins in it, which are very addictive to a lot of people. So I had to ditch the heavy cream, and I did that some time ago. And what's interesting about when I ditched the heavy cream is that that decision was almost instantaneously, where I moved to adding butter instead of heavy cream. Number one, the butter was really good in the coffee, and that made it easier to move from the heavy cream, but also was the reason I had to ditch the heavy cream that made the difference, because logical me and irrational me were able to come to agreement very quickly, because it was about a number on a scale, and that was something that was not, up for negotiation. It just had to be taken care of. I could not consume the heavy cream. It was causing me to, not to gain weight, but it caused me to stall. So that was completely unacceptable. So a lot of this has mostly to do with the deep-rooted love affair that people have with coffee, including me. Not the coffee itself, because like I said, I don't really like black coffee. I don't think it tastes good just by itself. But with the butter and the MCT oil that I add to it, it makes for something that's very enjoyable, and I look forward to it. And also I'm getting my fats in that I need to get in daily. So, when you're looking at the reason we actually do these things, you have to consider the hedonic nature of eating. Like, hedonic eating is where you are eating for pleasure and or entertainment. So some of it is that's tied to that ritual behavior I was talking about. But, again, this tool, this fatty coffee is what I call it. This tool was something that helped me lose almost 100 pounds. So it had a purpose at a certain time in my life. But now I just feel like I'm being exposed to all of these chemicals, and it's for the reasons I discussed before about the dehydration, the laxative effect, and the possible interference with, essential minerals that could be causing leg cramps and things. It's time to give it up. But how do we do that? So one of the strategies I mentioned in a previous video about weight loss, about a hack for weight loss, is what I call surrogate foods. Now, surrogate foods is where you have a behavior or a food that you eat or something you're trying to get away from. You replace it with something. You go in a direction of replacing it with something better that's not as detrimental, or that is kind of a compromise type of thing. So I have a couple of phases for the strategy in trying to get rid of the coffee that I think will work pretty well. Phase one for me of getting rid of the coffee is going to be a substitution. Instead of coffee when I wake up in the morning, I am going to drink this. Now, this is chocolate caramel salt LMNT. It's really meant to go, I think, mainly into hot water. It simulates like a hot chocolate type of thing. But this will allow me to keep putting my butter and my MCT oil in. So it'll be a really creamy, it's got a decent flavor. I don't hate it or anything. But it will substitute the coffee so that irrational me and logical me can come to terms with an acceptable option. Then as time goes by, the next phase would be maybe doing something that's more of a electrolyte powder that is not flavored, that has the flavors removed, and some type of hot beverage. Maybe less of this. Maybe I go down to a half of a packet. But I don't want to have to actually be attached to any type of drink in the morning. We have to drink things, and I typically will consume electrolytes, but something with not these flavors in it. And I don't think LMNT does not put gobs of trash in their product or anything like that. I know there was a maltodextrin thing that people were worried about, but just knowing how manufacturing practices work and how certain formulations require delivery molecules and things like that. Like, I think that the amount of maltodextrin in this is negligible, first of all. So, and as far as I go, I'm not affected by tiny amounts of things. But this is way better than having a laundry list of god-awful chemicals that you're consuming every morning, or, something worse. So I think this will be an acceptable way to approach this. The most important part of giving up anything that you love, logical you and irrational you have got to make a pact in order to make it move forward. That is the biggest lesson I've learned in losing these 100 pounds. You have to strategize in order to achieve victory over these foods that we are addicted to, or rituals, or whatever. I will be tracking how I feel, how much water I drink, any changes I note during this time on this no coffee challenge. So I will report back in future videos and let you know how it's going and what kind of a difference I see with actually leaving coffee behind. So are you drinking coffee? Do you love it as much as I do? Is it a ritual for you? Is it as hard for you to give up as it is for me? What are your comments? Please share below, because I'm very interested. Does your irrational self and logical self have fights with each other regularly? I don't know, maybe that says something to my mental stability, who knows? But please give your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'm very interested in this topic. And I also want to reiterate, coffee was a valuable tool for me when I was losing weight. Fatty coffee played a big role in how I was able to avoid foods that I needed to stay away from. Anyone who needs to be drinking coffee, who feel like they're at a point where it's something that they need to do, then this is not a condemnation of anybody that drinks coffee at all. It's my particular situation, and for the reasons that I've described in this video, my body seems to think it's time for me to stop drinking it. So, but as always, if you like the video, please give it a like, and if you want to subscribe, please do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.